hit this magical record button. I'm going to give the hard drive a second to warm up. And I'm going to do a quick little countdown. In 3, 2, 1. Hello, the internet. Matthew here for another great episode of Something Creative. And I am here today. I'm really trying not to fanboy out right now. This is a huge honor for me. I am speaking with the one and only Bryant Chambers. Dude, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, dude, the honor's mine, man. Like, I'm a fan of all you guys that I see out there killing it, brother. I think it's me that has the honor, and it's me that's the fanboy. Truthfully, I was talking about this with my wife earlier. I love the idea of taking the hero's journey and codifying it and helping people apply. Like, I've been stealing some of your mojo, man. I don't know if you've caught on to it. I've been swagger jacking you a little bit because I like the idea of helping people understand that this hero's journey that we watch in literally every movie and we've ever watched and book we've ever read, it's who we see ourselves as, and it's the journey we all are on, whether we like it or not. So helping people understand their place in it, man, I think what you're doing is super powerful. So like I said, man, I'm the fan. I'm the one that's happy to be here. Thank you.
Dude, thank you so much. All right, that's it. We're done. Night made. All right, so for those who don't know, Bryant Chambers is, well, I started following you because of TikTok.
Okay.
And you have quite an impressive repertoire. So why don't you tell the people who unfortunately don't know you yet a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, man. I'm a person who's lived a lot of life in a short amount of time, you know, starting from being abandoned at birth and then somehow magically landing in a better family. And then being raised as a warrior, becoming a warrior myself. I was a soldier for a while. And then just going out into the real world, working, you know, running businesses for other people, starting my own, and just realizing that all the world's problems can be boiled down to leadership failures. So I decided if I was going to make the world a place I wanted to live in and a place where I wanted my kids to live, I'd have to at least have a hand in attempting to fix that. So all I really do is just try to raise up young and old warrior leaders all over the world, because if we can first learn to lead ourselves and take command of our personal lives and our professional lives, then we become an influence for good in the lives of other people. And a lot of people don't understand that the leadership problems that exist in the world all have to do with the self and people not properly understanding their place, having the self-awareness they need, understanding the hero's journey, which is what you're doing, which I think is supremely important. And just understanding how to self-govern properly so that you can be trusted to lead other people and eventually make the world for you and the other people that you influence that much better, man. And that's it. That's all the content I make. Everything I've ever done on the internet, even when I was an entertainer, believe it or not, was predicated on trying to bring out leadership qualities in other people.
All right, so that's really where I want to start. Well, first of all, like before I hit record, we were talking about the fact that, yes, this is my brand is something, like you say, talks about the hero's journey and why that's so important to understand, and why this particular segment that I'm doing is about creatives, speaking with creatives. I think it's so creative for you to jump on a quote unquote kids app, as they call it, as TikTok is. What made you jump onto TikTok to talk about personal development?
Yeah, so I've been on TikTok since it was Musical.ly. I've actually had an account. In fact, I couldn't recover my old account when they made the switch, which is why I had to become Bryant Chambers Speaks on there, because I was just Bryant Chambers. And I couldn't, for whatever reason, I couldn't recover my account when it became TikTok, which wasn't a big deal. I just kind of moved on. But in my past, with my businesses and working with other people's businesses, I developed a lot of expertise specifically in digital marketing.
Okay.
Right. And how do I use, like you said, how do I use other platforms to connect with people? And I've never really been all that romantic about, is this platform for kids? And I've been in this internet game since 1993. So let me give some background. I've been playing around with message forms and what became the internet since I was a little kid in 1993. And then I built my own online communities before social media existed. So I've been here, I've played the game a long time. And I think a lot of people think I'm new to it because they're just discovering me, but I've actually been at this working with companies like PlayStation and video game companies, doing marketing and doing things like building communities for a long time. So TikTok just made sense as a platform for me just to run, like, and I'm a scientist by education, and I just have a kind of a scientist curiosity. I just did it out of curiosity. Let's see, because I never make and I think it's a lot of people, and I like that you put it in quotes, will say things like it's a kids platform. It's really not. Most of my audience is over 30 years old, you know, and I talk to at least most of my known audience that I actually engage with on a regular basis is over 30 years old. So a lot of people assume that it's this kids platform, and all I did was I had actually my video editor was on TikTok for me at first, publishing videos. And then eventually I was like, well, that doesn't work. So let me try just doing some organically. And then, you know, an audience that I had been trying to reach forever, which was military folks, especially combat veterans. I reached them. I reached like 20,000 people overnight with one video of me and my son, one of my younger kids, singing an Army cadence. So I'm on the platform because it provided me an excellent opportunity to reach people who are in the target audience of folks that I want to talk to help make the world a better place.
All right. So that was your focus, was just trying to connect to the people you wanted to connect through. So the platform didn't matter. You were just going to
at all. I'm totally like, for example, I've already deleted Facebook. I'm not there anymore. I've deleted LinkedIn. I've deleted Twitter. I've deleted Instagram. So I have no loyalty. I left YouTube for a lot of years after I blew up twice on YouTube for things that I didn't want to blow up for. So I walked away. I have no loyalties and no like emotional connection to any of these platforms. They're just, for me, they're a means to an end.
Well, we've seen over the years, especially more so in recent years, they have no loyalty to us.
Yeah, of course not.
Any of their creators. I mean, you know, and not to get into the weeds, but YouTube's been stomping on their creators left and right. Facebook clearly doesn't care. So I think it's really important that people understand that, because a lot of, especially younger people, want to blow up. They want to go viral. They want to, you know, do all this. And it's refreshing to hear from somebody who's had not just a high level of experience in this particular field, but you've had a wide range of experience.
Sure.
So how has that shaped your, I want to ask it the right way. How has it shaped your perspective? You say you have your own businesses, but you've also run businesses for other people.
Sure.
How has that like built your experience to where you are now?
Specifically with the social media, or just in general?
Just in, I'm sorry. Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. I just want to make sure I answer it right. Yeah. So it's, the experience from all the way from, you know, my first job when I was 12, I guess, you know, I was doing filing for a newspaper in my local area. I'm from the DC area, if anybody's curious where I'm from, but it's, the experience is like anything in life, man. They just teach you what works and what doesn't work. Right. So running somebody else's business gave me a lot of insight when I finally, and I had technically started my business already by the time I was running someone else's, because I technically started when I was still in the Army. But going and running somebody else's, you know, very, very lucrative business teaches you a lot of things about how business works. And it allows you to learn on somebody else's dime. It's actually something that I encourage people to do. Is like, for example, my wife has been for years considering law school. And then she found out that you, in lieu of going to school, which I'm not a fan of, I hate the idea of going to a school.
I'm with you.
And that's just personally for me. I don't have any like moral issues with it, but I said, well, she found out about you can apprentice your way into becoming an attorney. And I was like, why wouldn't you do it? Like, it takes the same amount of time, but you're getting real world experience. Why would you do it any other way? You know what I mean? So like right now, she just had a phone call with an attorney who she's looking at. They want to hire her so that she can actually get paid to learn how to be an attorney. So I'm like, yeah, like, you know, nobody ever wants a job, but I'm like, if they're going to pay you to learn how to be an attorney, then of course, right? So you get to learn, and it's something I tell people to do all the time. Sometimes even before starting your own thing, learn on somebody else's dime. If there's something really complicated you want to do, like if you're the guy that wants to start the next Facebook, go work there first.
Right.
Go figure out what the DNA was that made it successful. Find out where all the problems are that make Facebook a pain in the butt. But I got to learn so many lessons about how things work. Especially, I'd say one of the most valuable takeaways, because I already had a lot of business experience running companies in the Army, but the the money side of it, like actual managing and accounting and finance and getting those parts figured out when you start running a business that's bigger than just, you know, paying a couple of bills or like a side hustle. So I learned a ton, man. And, you know, and I'm learning from a guy who had been a multi-millionaire since he was 17 as a real estate guy. And, you know, so the billionaire that owned the company, that's who I was learning from, was a dude who had been wealthy since he was a kid, you know, flipping and hustling properties, man.
That you said so much that's so powerful, but I'm going to wrap it a little bit back to my own experience in that. So I'm 5 years recovered I'm in recovery, 5 years sober, 5 years as a,
Oh, right on, man.
thank you.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
October 20th will be 5 years for me. And in my development, in my own journey, I started listening to personal development guys, you know, Ty Lopez, Peter Sage, Gary Vaynerchuk, like, and I started stitching together. I looked for what all these different, you know, young and old, what they would have to say, the books that they would read, the mentors that they had, the movies they watched, and I looked for common themes and I looked for common threads where they all connected, where they all agreed, because they're all going to have different experiences. And so what I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm feeling that part of my own journey in personal development specifically, that I was able to like kind of like piece that together on somebody else's experience. You know, I don't have to be a Rockefeller to learn from a Rockefeller.
Right.
You know, and I think that's really underrated a lot of times, not just in personal development, but in people's lives. And you do a really good job. You do an amazing job of conveying that to people, because you really, you take that same, not just your personal experience, but you take what other people have wrote and said, and you break it down into digestible bits. And that's the great thing about TikTok, is it's 60 seconds, digestible bits. And you talk about the books you read, and you do that on your podcast, I noticed, which again, thank you so much for the shout out on your podcast.
Yeah.
Which is going to be scrolling down here on the bottom for everyone. That you've been talking about this one book, and the Artist's Journey. Who was the author?
Stephen Pressfield.
Stephen Pressfield wrote The Artist's Journey, who likened being an artist to the hero's journey. And you do really well in breaking that down on TikTok, but you broke that down very, very well on your podcast. So what, and then I noticed you do one book at a time, then you'll kind of like throw a lot of snippets out from like a different book, then you go on to the next one. How do you choose which book to go with? Or is it just like you read a lot of books and then you find the one, or is it just you go to the next and you go to the next and you share it with people in real time? What's that process like?
I think Stephen Pressfield would say, I chose none of it. The books chose me. And it's as corny as that sounds. I'll do what you say I'm good at, which is break down what in the hell he means. Because I love him, because in his books he'll write some deep stuff like that, and then he'll make fun of himself for saying it. But the point there is, a lot of times I'm reading, like that was the first time I had read The Artist's Journey. Like I had the freaking fantastic opportunity to briefly talk with Stephen Pressfield on Instagram, obviously before I deleted it. And I'd seen that he had the book coming out, and I was like, anything he puts out's a must buy for me. Like, he's that person. And I was going through the book myself. So I was writing down notes and highlighting as I was having emotional interactions with the book. This is something I might want to say. So I'd make a note of it. And I'd actually, if I had the book here, I could show it to you. My wife's reading it now, where I would write down in parentheses, this is a quote that I'm going to read on TikTok, or this is a reading that I'm going to do on TikTok, because this had a profound emotional impact on me, and I know it will on somebody else. And so a lot of times when I'm deciding what's going to go into a TikTok video, it's what I'm experiencing in the moment. You know, like the one TikTok video I shot today after taking a few days off was about not killing yourself to help other people. Well, that was motivated by being angry about, I sit on the board of a nonprofit, and the owner is being harassed by an outside entity that's not harassed, but being bothered by an outside entity that she hired to do some work. And I'm frustrated because I'm watching her have this struggle while she's trying to help other people. And what I wanted to tell this person that was bringing the struggle was, to tell them to go jump off a bridge because I did half of their work for them last week. I was like, tell them to shut the hell up because I was doing their job for them, that this person you hired or whatever. But I was frustrated because I'm watching a friend of mine go through it while they're also having health issues. And it was just like, this is a message I've already said to the human, but this is something everybody else needs to hear. Like, there's no nobility in you killing yourself just so someone else can win. Like, you can both win. You don't have, your life doesn't have to fall apart so that somebody else benefits. And so I was emotionally driven by that at the moment. And I've just learned over the years that the best way to get attention is to drive a specific set of emotions. Usually laughter is the biggest one, hope and happiness, or anger. Anger was the energy that was driving me, but then I can transmute anger into inspiration for someone else. And that's it. That's the prize. The same way when I used to write songs, was it just, I don't write a song, it just comes to me and I write stuff down.
Okay, so that was what I was it's very interesting. We find the things we need. I've been hoping that we could do this interview for a while, but in the last few months for me, I've been going through something personally where I've learned to connect with my emotions more.
Yeah.
Because, like in recovery, in all the ups and downs I've been going through, I intellectualized it. I intellectualized a lot of things, and I hadn't been connecting emotionally. I've been doing that a lot more now. So when you're saying this, it really hits me personally really hard right now, because this is something I'm just figuring out. Like, this was my ultimate boon for me in my journey right now, is to connect with that emotional side of myself. So to hear that is kind of like a validation. And I was just talking with my acupuncturist today. I realized that phase of my journey has actually come to an end. And I've been going through a little bit of refusal of the return. So I've been kind of like, so as you're saying all this, I'm just like, like getting those lessons. And I really appreciate that. So I want to actually kind of just segue off and just jump to talking about your music. What have you played? How do you play? Like, because you were saying, like, this is how you write through that emotion. So what have you done musically? And I would love to share any links or whatever you got.
Well, for the last 8 years, nothing.
Okay.
In Stephen Pressfield's series of books, which The Artist's Journey is the most recent one, he's got books called Turning Pro, The War of Art, and Do the Work. And in Turning Pro, he talks about a concept called
I'm sorry, I've heard all these titles. It just, when you said that now, I heard all 3 titles and now 4, and I'm like, oh my God, yes, this is a guy I've had on my list of people to read that I haven't.
Yeah.
So thank you.
They should be mandatory reading for every human, because music for me is what Stephen Pressfield calls a shadow career, which is, this is something I'm pursuing and I'm treating it like it's my dream and I'm putting all the effort into it. But what I'm really doing is I'm pursuing this because I'm not scared to fail at it, when I'm actually scared to fail at my real dream, which is, basically what I do, which is talk to people all over the world and help them find their inner warrior leader. And I just thought for a lot of years that people, and I had been playing music because it was a great outlet too. Some of it was just fun. It wasn't just a career thing, but I was a paid musician at one point in time. And I thought it was going to be my career. I was like, this is how I'm going to change the world. I'm going to write songs and I'm going to put stuff. It was this really delusional kind of naive dream of, I'm going to say all this stuff that's going to have a profound impact on these people. And then I had musician friends kind of wake me up to, no, you're not. They're like, music is about escapism, brother. Become a preacher or something. You're not in the right place. And it took me a lot of years to figure that out. But yeah, I started as a drummer, right? As a percussionist. You guys can see all my conga drums all over my house, and I've got them on my shelves, and there's more in my closet over here. That's where I started. And then I played set drums. I'd be a fill-in drummer because I was pretty terrible at drums, but I sucked less enough to people that didn't know better thought I could play drums. So I could fill in on shows if we were in a tight spot and just play the simple songs.
Right.
But then I started as a vocalist. I started rapping, screaming, and singing, a kind of a mixture of my favorite genres of music, which are hip hop and heavy metal. And so I started bringing that to the fray. And then that was pretty much it. I pretty much walked away from music almost altogether around 2012 or 13. And then I've played some shows here and there with acts that asked me to come out and fill in as a percussionist and things like that. But as far as like just making music, I've actually turned it over to my kids. I've got one kid in particular who's really, really talented with it. So I've just started investing in him and helping him make music and make songs and stuff like that. So I haven't really created much of anything in recent years, but I've been working with my son, who's really into it. That's kind of been my music outlet for the most part.
See, it's so interesting when you say that. Like, all right, so obviously this drive to have an impact and have a meaningful impact. I'm glad we brought this up because that was something I wanted to ask you. There are some people, like when I started in personal development, I said like, I want to usurp Tony Robbins. That was how I encapsulated it. I wanted that reach, that far reaching expanse. Like everybody knows Tony Robbins, you know? And then I realized more so recently, reach is good, but depth is better.
Yeah.
I would trade 10 million fans for 10,000 loyal followers who understand what I'm saying. And that is what I see you doing.
Wow.
No, like really, like you look at the ratios of the followers you have and the comments that are left and the likes and shares. I mean, they're just numbers, but they reveal something is that the people that you do reach actually listen, actually want to be engaged with the conversation. And that I think is something that's a lot more meaningful. So I have to ask you, based on that, do you feel like you've already, like if you could talk to your former self, that musician, before his musician friends talk to him and say, "Nah, man, let me tell you, it gets so much better." Like, do you feel, I do a terrible you, I know.
I do a terrible me too, so you're in good company.
So do you feel like you've had a good measure of success up to this point?
For sure. I think anybody looking from the outside, I would appear successful to most. I think to me, I'm just never satisfied. And it's because I won't let myself be.
Right.
You know, you're right. I would rather have 1,000 people. And to be clear, because I've never believed in the concept of fans. I've always thought that for me to call somebody a fan, for me to do it, there's nothing wrong with it. But for me to call somebody a fan, that puts me in a position above them.
Right.
And what I say is we have friends of the show,
Okay.
right? Because then we're on that even footing. I don't like the idea of being on a pedestal because I know, because I've read the history and I've played this game long enough to know that this fame thing that everybody thinks they want is not really what they think it is. And I'm not famous by any stretch, but I'm quasi-internet kind of social media TikTok famous, if that's what you want to call it. But that's not where the real happiness and the love are. The love is, like you said from the jump, is in those meaningful exchanges. Like I would trade every bit of the numbers in for just, like you said, 10,000 people who legitimately don't have to believe what I believe. I'm not interested in trying to make people believe a thing. I just need them using their brains and becoming the warrior leaders that they're meant to be, and whatever that means to them, right? As long as they're not living life as a coward, I'm happy. That's all I care about. And if I could get 10,000 people who are really into that, I'd trade in all the numbers. In fact, when I asked Jordan Peterson to join his social media platform, one of the ones I haven't deleted yet, I jokingly sent him a message. I said, "Hey, Doc, I will delete all of my other social media. Mine is my podcast because that's my most important thing. I'll delete all of it if you let me on your platform." Like, that's how serious I was about getting on a platform that would let me make, I believed at the time, would help me make legitimate, meaningful connections with people, not just raw, because I've done the whole get millions of views thing. And I just, for the new creators, the influencers that are on the come up, I just got to tell you, like, that getting to 1 million views thing isn't the Shangri-La moment that you think it's going to be. And frankly, it does very little to help anything you're doing in terms of side hustle business if you don't have systems in place already that can capture that much attention. And chances are the thing you're doing that's getting that much attention isn't going to help you sell anything anyway. Right. Because it's going to reach people at a very, very visceral, emotional level that's probably making them really, really happy or really, really sad, but not necessarily, "Hey, I want to go join this guy's program that's going to help me be awesome."
Yeah. And you have a really good program going too. The 30-day challenge.
Yeah, 30-day change your life challenge, man.
30-day change your life challenge. So I'm going to, of course, make sure all that's below. I just got two more things. I'm pushing the clock on this one just because you're.
Oh, take your time, man. Take your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I think the audience will be engaged. So you said you wanted to make warrior leaders. Is that because we've talked about this kind of through our comments and through our messages? Is that like that warrior archetype is something that's like born and bred in you, and obviously you have that in you as well. Is training others to find their warrior, to bring that out in themselves, is that something you always wanted to do, or is that more something that you just found as something like you needed to do out of necessity, like, my God, the world sucks so much, people need to, or is this something like inner calling?
I think you just decoded the matrix with that question, bro. Like, yeah, is the answer to all that stuff you just said. But the detailed answer is, yes, I always wanted to do it, but I didn't know it was called that.
Okay.
Right? It took me the years to be able to articulate what in the hell am I doing? Because when I was making music, I wasn't talking about warrior leaders. I was talking about a lot of the corruption that's going on in the world. I was talking about, me and my friends got sent to this bullshit war for what? Right? And now I got dead friends. How do I reconcile that? Right? It all because also a couple of politicians could make some bankers happy and feed the companies that they own stake in. And that's an overly simplified answer, and I'm not crapping on anybody's politics, but it's just that was my feeling at the time, right or wrong. It was like, I want to talk about it. I want to get this off my chest. And at the time, I didn't realize what I was trying to get people to do was to just seek out the truth for themselves. I mean, I come from a city where musically, our local musicians are very, very closely tied to the natives from our city. And I say natives because most of the people that live in DC are not from here. So they don't get our culture and they don't get our music. In fact, the gentrification and business owners have been trying to get our music out of the city since the 80s, during the crack era, long before I was, anywhere near old enough to step on a stage. But the point being there, yeah, I wanted to raise warrior leaders all over the world. I just didn't know that that's what I was doing. I just wanted people not to settle for the bullshit that they were consuming every single day in their music, in the news. Like, if anything, just let me say something that's real to people and hope it resonates with them, And so that certainly was present in my music, and it's, obviously present in the stuff that I do now. But it's a lot less biased now. It's a lot less, I need these people to understand the truth. No, I need you to find the truth for yourself. Because you're going to inevitably find whatever it is you're destined to find. All I want to make sure is that you're on the path to seek it, and we're not dying in our foxhole. One of the things we talk about in the 30-day challenge, one of the lessons is called "Don't die in your foxhole." And it's, I'd rather die with my head held high, chasing after something, than hiding, and then have death come find me cowering in my hole. And so, yeah, it is something I always wanted to do. I just didn't know that this is what it was. And that's why I had to walk away from music too, because I knew music, much like when I did entertainment, like on YouTube, wasn't the means to get people on that path. That I could still do entertainment, like I still do my YouTube gaming shows and stuff for fun. But that's just to give the people I'm already reaching another way to connect with me that's fun and organic, and they get to see that I'm really not that serious like I come across on these TikTok videos. Right. I'm way more of an inappropriate class clown than I am really a serious stoic philosopher that I think people kind of associate with me, because it looks that way when I'm doing a 1-minute video. I only have a minute. I don't have time to bake in jokes. I got to just say the thing and get on with it.
My favorite actually was the roast that Habitual line crosser did of you. I was dying.
Loved it.
I was dying, and your reaction video was like so like real.
Oh, dude, I couldn't not do that video for him, because he had messaged me like, "Yo, how hard do you?" I said, "Dude, no holds barred. Right. Talk about my lopsided head. Talk about my gap tooth. Whatever it is, just verbally destroy me." And he kind of still went a little easy. I mean, I think because he didn't have all the material and he was trying to do them fast. Right. But I loved it, man. I loved the fact that he could find those things about me and poke fun in a way that was designed just to, show love to other people, man. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, hell, maybe I can get him on here. That'd be great. All right. So again, there's so much here to unpack. I would love to have you back on if you'd be down for that.
Sure.
Carry on another conversation. But last question I ask absolutely everybody. What would you say to the young man or woman, or even your younger self, who's just starting out, who knows something is wrong, who feels something burning inside of them, something creative, something that they want to do, some sort of message, something even abstract they can't quite verbalize, but they have to step forward? What would you say to the person who's getting ready to cross that first threshold?
You're going to die if you don't do it.
Oh.
You're dead. If you don't do it, you are and let me make it more clear, because that's not actually accurate. You are going to live out a living death, which is worse than dying, if you don't cross that threshold. You're going to look yourself in the mirror and hate every day. And your internal, your soul, your muse, your God, whatever you want to call it, is going to be screaming at you every day for the rest of your life. And you're going to have to either run away from it, numb it with drugs and alcohol or whatever it is, but it's not going to stop reminding you that you effed up. So you can either deal with the pain of regret and live out a living death like a zombie, or you can die to self and get after it and take the pain that comes with winning. And most people, that's why only 2% of people in the world ever become what they want to, because the pain of staying where you are and the regret in their minds hurts less than the pain that they have to endure in the wilderness to become the warrior and the leader that they have to be to have their dream. And what they don't know is one day they're going to be 80, and that regret's going to hurt a lot worse. So stay here if you want, but death is coming for you. So it's your call.
I could barely breathe through any of that. Dude, legit. You just hit me with a sledgehammer, and I've already done it. I've crossed 2 major thresholds.
Dude, you've been sober 5 years. You've written a book on, yeah. Are you kidding me? You know how hard that is, bro? Yes. Please. But absolutely.
You just, I really hope people were taking notes. Rewind, watch that again. Because that was something I would have needed to hear a while ago. Yeah. I had to drag my own happy ass across it. That's why I numbed my life up without.
Right. That's why we do that. Right. It's because I chased a shadow career for 10 years I wanted to be with the Roots. Like I was going to be Black Thought's. That's my mentor. I was going to be his number 2. That was my dream. And it was bullshit because I didn't actually want that. I wanted a platform to speak to people. And not that, I mean, Black Thought is one of my idols. Tariq, if you're listening somehow to this, Sensei, I love you. You're everything I've ever wanted to be as an artist. And I realized that that's not the direction I needed to do it in, and I know what it's like to sit on the bench and die and live that living death. And I know it because I've walked it. I've lived it. I spent a lot of years walking out that zombie life, and it's effing murderous, man. And it's way worse than choosing to do the hard thing. And let me give you the encouraging side of that statement is don't be afraid. The pain isn't as bad as you think it's going to be. In fact, you start to welcome the pain after you realize, wait a minute, all this pain is making me grow. Yeah. It's actually a good thing. And then you realize all this stuff that I was afraid of was nonsense. Like the fact that anybody starts a show with I'm fanboying, to me, that isn't real to me, that anybody would watch or listen to me and they would have that reaction to me because I'm just a dude saying stuff. You know what I mean? Like these are the interactions you get to have when you make the leap. And people like us are attracted to each other. You're always going to attract people like this into your circle. The further you get out there. And then once you get past the wilderness and you start seeing the promised land, like, oh, this is cool. Then you get to go back to the wilderness by choice.
Yes.
To train and help get other people out of it. It's fantastic.
I really hope nobody thinks of you as altruistic. Because I know that it's like, wow, that's actually kind of mean to say. No, because you know what? It's as much in your DNA as it is in mine. It's not altruism. When you're out there, I unfortunately, I didn't serve, but I know that ethic of, you're not fighting for your country or an ideal as much as you're fighting for the guy next to you.
Absolutely.
Nobody.
And it's selfish. I'm fighting for you because I want you to fight for me. I love you first because I want you to love me. And selfishness isn't evil, guys. You got to get out of that. You got to take care of you before you can help anybody else.
That was the first thing I learned in massage school. Oh my God, this can keep going on. I'm gonna have to cut this off for format's sake, and I'm gonna have to beg you to come back on at some point.
I will, man. I will. Let's. This is fun. I love this. I love short and sweet. Let's set it up, make it happen again, man. I'm honored to be here. I'd be glad to do it again.
And I'm honored to have you. So everybody, at least this is easy. You don't have a lot of platforms to follow him on. You got TikTok, you got his podcast, and you got the 30-day challenge.
And YouTube. And it's all just my first name and last name.
Okay.
If they search, if you just Google Bryant Chambers, it'll be my website first, then YouTube, then I think a bunch of other stuff that I deleted, and then my podcast eventually. So if you can't remember that, just Google my name. You can see everything. And if you prefer podcasts like I do, you can listen. The podcast is hands down the best content I produce.
Okay. All right. So all that's going to be down in the YouTube description. Bryant, thank you again so much for being here. From Matt and Bryant, this has been an incredible episode of Something Creative. Take care, everybody. Catch you on the next one.